Tonight, we have a Two on Your Side original story about a Catholic priest who was moved around the Buffalo diocese and moved around a lot. The priest's name is Father Joseph Friel.
Now, he served in the diocese for 34 years. That was from the late 1950s until his death in 1995. In that time, Friel had 14 different assignments around Western New York.
Now, half of those assignments appear to be only for a year. Victim advocates and area Catholic clergy tell us when a priest is moved this much, it is a sign of trouble.
Well, Two on Your Side has identified 8 people who all say when they were children, they were sexually abused by Father Friel. Investigative reporter Steve Brown has the story of this predator priest.
Warm and sunny Melbourne, Florida. It's home to native Western New Yorker Christopher Friel, who wonders how his life could have been.
My life was stolen, and I probably could have been much better in life than I am now.
In the late 1960s, Friel was a teenage altar boy at 14 Holy Helpers Parish in West Seneca. Friel remembers the first time Father Joseph Friel pulled him from a religious studies class to take him to the rectory.
In his own room, up the stairs in the rectory. I guess he played some music. I don't remember if there was alcohol. I don't recall that, but I remember smelling alcohol on him and tried to kiss me and things like that, and sat me on the bed, and from there things progressed.
Friel says Friel sexually assaulted him perhaps a half dozen separate times. Decades later, in the 90s, Friel sued the Buffalo diocese, but he later dropped the suit because the statute of limitations had expired. This was in 1994.
It would be fair to say that in view of recent developments,
Chief Legal Counsel for the diocese then is the same person holding that job today. That would be Terry Connors. In '94, Connors told news organizations locally there have never been any similar allegations made against Father Friel. Two on Your Side can report that statement today is false. Including Friel, Two on Your Side has identified 8 different people, all alleging they were victimized by Friel.
Before 14 Holy Helpers, Friel was here at Our Lady of Victory in Lackawanna. That was in 1965 and 66. At that time, an altar boy had an encounter with Friel. That now 66-year-old man shared his story with attorney Steve Boyd.
So it was after Mass, and Father Friel attempted to take his pants down. The kid wailed and punched him in the mouth and gave him a fat lip.
Friel responds by throwing some money on the floor and telling the boy to go buy himself an ice cream. Instead, the boy walks 3 blocks home, to this home. When the boy gets here, his father's working in the garage and immediately asks, "What happened?"
The kid assumes the priest is called, and the dad knows everything, so he tells the whole incident. The dad goes in the house, gets his best clothes on, drives to the rectory, and talks to the Monsignor and tells him what Father Friel tried to do to his son. Father Friel is moved a week later.
Friel landed at 14 Holy Helpers from 1967 to 1970, where he met Chris Friel and other children.
My family was there for a long time, grandfather, father.
This Buffalo area man would only share his abuse story if we disguised him and did not share his name. Like the previous 2 accusers, he was an altar boy and says he was also approached after assisting in a Mass.
Father Friel, I remember coming behind me, hugging me close, start tickling me, touching my private parts. Tried to get away, told him I didn't like it. Then after like maybe the 2nd or 3rd occasion, he actually put his hands down inside my pants and touched my private parts.
How soon did you tell your mother about this?
I told her probably like the 2nd time. Told her a couple times. She slapped me across the face each and every time that I told her and said, priest don't do that. She sent me right back into the devil's den.
Back to the church, back to Friel. For Jill Jepson Kalachai, her abuse happened when she was 11, in her home. Her parents, both very active at 14 Holy Helpers, would regularly invite friends from church to parties in their basement.
People would sit around and tell jokes and drink and smoke, and you know, this was 1960s, and get dressed up, and that was it.
Friel would show up, drink, we're told heavily, and with the party still going, crept into Kellichai's bedroom.
And then slowly he would come closer and closer.
When he came in your room and touched you, was there intimate touching?
Oh yeah, he kissed my neck, he laid on top of me, he was rubbing himself, and I would just freeze. I mean, I'd just lay there like this until he'd go away.
Kellichai kept the abuse to herself until many years later.
How many more do you know of at 14 Holy Helpers?
From 14 Holy Helpers, we're aware of 3 additional survivors of abuse by Father Friel.
Attorney Mike Reck represents these 3 unnamed accusers and spoke on their behalf for this story.
All of them are male.
Age when they allege the abuse?
Abuse for all 3 of them ranges from age 11, 12 up to age 14.
How many of them were altar boys?
All 3 of them.
Records indicate that Friel was out of 14 Holy Helpers by 1971. A couple of years later, he was promoted to pastor, which is essentially the lead priest in a parish. That was the title that Friel had when he arrived here at St. Patrick's in the Cattaraugus County town of Randolph. It is also where accuser number 8 says that they were abused by Friel. This was in 1978 and 79. The Buffalo Diocese found the accusation credible enough to make a settlement offer. No details on dollar amount available.
8 alleged victims, 3 different parishes, 1 priest. Moved repeatedly throughout his 34-year career, leaving in his wake children, who today as adults wonder why the diocese did not protect them.
The people before me, the people after me, this can all have been prevented. I wouldn't have to be sitting here telling you this story today if they would have addressed it back in the day. That I know.
We've showed you how Friel was moved repeatedly around the diocese. Moving a priest requires the final okay of the bishop. So we asked the diocese, what did then bishops James McDulty and Edward Head know about Friel? Why did they move him so often? There's also this. In 1992, Friel was sent to New Mexico for treatment. We're told Friel was there to be treated for alcoholism, but the location, Servants of the Holy Paraclete, was also a place priests from around the country were sent for sex abuse counseling. A diocesan spokeswoman declined to offer explanations or answers to any of these questions. There is a more longer, detailed version of our story now posted on our website, WGRZ.com. Reporting in studio tonight, Steve Brown, Channel 2 News.